Okay, so we are going to talk about surpluses and shortages the next couple of videos. And we talked about reasons why demand shifts, reasons why supply shifts. We've talked about that if the price changes, goes up or down, it leads to a change in quantity supplied or a change in quantity demanded. But now we got to learn about, well, if that happens, what happens sort of in the long run? And then what happens if the government makes those prices change? So we're going to start off with shortages here, right? And you can see in a price ceiling here, we have two graphs, supply and demand graphs at equilibrium. Right, I haven't changed anything yet. You can see we have price equilibrium and quantity equilibrium here with our upward sloping demand curve and our downward our upward sloping supply curve and our downward sloping demand curve. Okay, so let's say that for whatever reason this is the the market for it doesn't really matter. We can say the market for I don't know, tennis shoes. All right, let's say this is the market for tennis shoes. Let's say the average price is $50. Okay. And let's say on average at $50, the quantity would be 100,000 shoes a day. All right, I'm just making these numbers up or whatever. Now, let's say that for whatever reason, the companies decide to lower the price of tennis shoes. Not because of a shift in income, not because of a shift in, substitute prices, not because of a shift in, change of taste, nothing like that. They just change the price. Okay, the price goes down. All right? So if that happens, we now have, we'll call this P sub 1, and if we want to, we can make this $30. Well, if that's the case, we know if you're a supplier, if you're a firm, firms don't want to produce that much and the price is lower. They prefer the price be higher. So at this price right here, this becomes our quantity supplied. You can see this is this price. This is where it hits the supply curve. So we're going to call this quantity supplied. So you can see the price being lowered means that firms don't want to supply as much. But if you're a consumer, if you're a demander of tennis shoes, and the price drops to $30, that's great for you, and you want to buy a lot more. So at this price, right here is where it hits the demand curve. We'll call this quantity demanded. Can you see it? This is the price, and this is the point at which, see how we're moving along the curve? Right? When the price went down to 30, we moved along the supply curve here. When the price went down to 30, we moved along the demand curve here. Because remember, a change in price, a change in quantity demanded and quantity supplied. Now what's happened is you can see that no longer does quantity demanded equal quantity supplied. When we're here, we'll call this point A. When we're at point A, quantity demanded hit quantity supplied. We're at equilibrium. But now we're not. Now the quantity demanded is greater than the quantity supplied. Right? And let's say the quantity, I'm just making these numbers up. Let's say the quantity supplied is 30,000 and the quantity demanded is 150,000. So right now, we have people who want to buy $150,000 worth of these tennis shoes, but firms are only going to produce $30,000 worth of these tennis shoes. So essentially what we have, when we have quantity demanded being greater than quantity supplied, we have a shortage. And in this case, we have a shortage of 120,000 shoes, right? 150 minus 30. So we have a shortage. Right? So this entire area right here represents the shortage of tennis shoes that we have. Here's how many people want. Here's how many firms are going to supply. And so we just don't have enough, right? Maybe lines for shoes. People can't get shoes, whatever. And so this shortage has been created as quantity demand is greater than quantity supply. Well, assuming there's no barriers to entry or exiting, assuming there's no government involvement, well, the market can fix itself, right? So if there's lines for shoes, there's tons of people who want shoes and they can't get it, then eventually firms will do what? Firms will begin to raise the price. And as firms begin to raise the price again towards equilibrium, then all of a sudden this shortage goes away and it finds its way back to equilibrium. Now, it's important to note that equilibrium is not some magical number that everyone knows about. There is no equilibrium, right? There's no God-given equilibrium. Markets are constantly moving, trying to find this equilibrium, and we know it's wrong. We know that you're not at equilibrium if a shortage is created, right? Because clearly there are a lot more people who want it than firms who want to supply it. So that means the price is too low. Think of it this way. if you're selling a house and you decide, and let's say the house is worth 500 grand, and you sell it, you put it up for 200 grand. All of a sudden, you're going to have a ton of people who are going to show up and want to buy it. And you're like, oh crap, I don't think I want to sell it for that much. So you'll raise the price back up, right? If this happens with iPods, right? Or iPhones. iPhones technically are too cheap, and so what they do is they sell them, and there becomes a shortage. More people want them that they're going to sell. There's a big long line of people trying to get them. People can't get them for a couple weeks. They start selling them more. So there are shortages because the price isn't high enough. Sometimes it happens on purpose. Sometimes it happens because markets are trying to figure out what the price is. So you see that like with clearance sales at malls and stuff. That means it's a shortage. I'm sorry, that would be a surplus. That means, or when like no one wants it. Skip that one. That'd be more of a surplus. So anyway, in this case, when there's a shortage, the quantity demanded is a lot higher than the quantity supplied. And the way that you fix it is by moving the price up to get rid of the shortage. Now, if it's a price ceiling, what this means is the government sets the price. So if for whatever reason, we'll say this is $50 again, and here's 50,000 shoes, and they set the price here at $40, right? And now we have quantity supplied, and we have quantity demanded, right? And here's our shortage, right? This area equals the shortage. If this is our shortage, and the government says prices can't go any low or any higher than $40, the price cannot go above 40. This is high as it gets. Well, if this is high as it gets, it's unlike this. Here, if the price is 40 and there's a huge shortage, firms will just raise the price. But here, if the government sets the price at $40, they can't raise it. It creates a permanent shortage. And we would call this line right here, a price ceiling. The price can't go above the ceiling. And it creates a forever shortage unless the government decides to change its behavior. And you can see here that we can't move it back up, and you can see that no lines are shifting, right? We're getting no new demand curves, no new supply curves. We're just moving along the curves because the price is changing, okay? And that's what a shortage looks like.